This lesson is titled Relationships. Subtitle, Are Relationships Another COVID Casualty? And then the more important question, is yours threatened? Is yours threatened? There's a saying that, if you see your neighbor's house on fire, maybe it will be useful if you wet yours. Could just be useful. Similarly, if you see a global trend emerging, maybe it could be useful for you to check what's happening in your household. Well, what we're seeing around the world now is a significant increase in the divorce rate. And the experts have warned that this pandemic-induced breakup curve may not have peaked as yet. It's going up significantly, but let's put it this way, the worst is yet to come. Now, 2021, we're seeing some possibilities of quote-unquote normality return, but some things have been happening that make us very concerned. When we look at the divorce rates, in many countries around the world, we're seeing some very interesting things happening. A major law firm in Britain, they've actually tracked it in terms of their own situation, and they logged 122% increase in the inquiries about divorce just between July and October of 2020 compared to the same previous period in the previous year. Another indicator, one organization actually looked at the online questions being asked for advice about ending relationships. And in the US, what they found was about a 34% increase. Significant increase in the number of people raising questions about the end of divorce. There's some people who actually sell pre-written contracts to help people to understand how you go about do certain things. And again, there's been a significant increase in the rise in the sales of basic divorce agreements. Many people, especially even those who are newly wed, people who have been married for 5 months or less, there's been a 20% increase in those kind of requests from that group. But this suggests that there's something happening. We're seeing these things even recorded in China, as for Sweden, we're seeing similar kind of phenomenon take place. So we believe that there's something happening at the core of this most important human relationship, the relationship between intimate partners, and it's affecting us in so many ways. And when you talk to lawyers and counselors, they are pointing us in a direction that tells us that, listen, this is something happening which is not very usual. The way we sum it up is that the pandemic has provided the perfect storm for couples. Lockdown, social distancing, this is forcing you to spend a lot more time together. Now, there's a saying that pressure busts pipe. Jamaicans saying that anywhere it marga, it pop. Anywhere there's a significant reduction in the size, it will break. And so relationships that were previously have some weak stress points, the stresses are now showing up in terms of what is happening between the individual. Now, it is said that breakups usually spike after families spend long time together. This is a documented phenomenon. After the holiday period, after the school summer break, over Christmas, things happen that bring things out to the fore. And shortly after that, people start talking to their lawyers. So we're seeing the same kind of phenomenon being raised again. The difference is the increase in the number of women. Typically, women ask for divorce more often than men do. But the number of women initiating divorces now within this time period has been documented about 76% compared to the usual 60% per year. So we're seeing something different, and we think we understand why this is happening. There was a recent study that looked at what is happening at home. Children are being schooled at home. People are working from home. There's been a significant increase in the impact of the woman's workload. One study indicated that the person most likely to be the one helping the child with the homework is first and foremost the mother. And secondly, another family member. And then if there's an older relative, the father is way down the line. So that women's work have been significantly increased in addition to their child care responsibility, and many times they themselves are also working from home. So this additional pressure on the relationship is causing things to happen. Now, previous to the pandemic lockdown, when people get on each other's nerve, there are ways to sort of step aside, come home late, go for a long walk, go away for a couple of days. But we're not having any of these things possible now. And so that people end up saying the things that they didn't really intend to say. So we have the additional workload, the more stress is taking place in the house, and there is more friction. In addition, the mental health issues also increased during the pandemic, and these are having impact in terms of the breakup. So that if a partner has, any kinds of anxiety disorder, any kind of personality conflict and such, these things can easily spiral out of control when triggered by the least, what is seen as an inappropriate comment by the other partner. And it continues, it works itself up to a fever. Now, this relationship situation, yes, it is demanding of us emotionally, mentally, physically. So, some persons have come to the decision that I can't take this no more. This is one less pressure I would love to have. Yes, I have the pressure of work, the pressure of the pandemic, the pressure of my children, but the pressure of my partner, of my spouse. There are people who have voices that say, look, for them, it was a matter of life or death. And this death can be taken a couple of ways, you know that. Because the consequence is doing something to yourself, but it's also doing something to the partner. Now, can you imagine couples who were not facing any problems before the pandemic? And this major shift now puts something on them which they've never experienced before. They too are susceptible because they've had no experience of having this kind of disruptive behavior. The routines that people had in their lives, persons usually do things as their stress relief. The gentleman may go out and play basketball every evening, play football every evening with his buddies and so on, stop for a drink down the road and come home about 10 o'clock. No, that's gone. Some people the lady may want to go out with her girlfriends. She may have a league that she is involved in sports with. So those outlets many times are taken away. So the pressure cooker called life has no release. And as we say, pressure busts pipe. So what happens? The relationship can be the one that actually gets the break. So the social life that you had as the release to the pressures of the relationship, these have been gone for some people almost for a year. And there's no way to release the pressure, to recharge yourself, to come back home. One partner may need interaction with other people. One partner may need more space. Both of these things have been lacking for a lot of people over this time period. Some say that young couples who enter the relationship, all bright eyes and bushy tailed and all kind of expecting all kind of wonderful things, they are experiencing even more trauma because this is not what they bargained for. And we're seeing some figures coming out of the US and Canada telling us that they're in trouble. Significant more of these individuals are feeling the pinch. We can add one more component. In general, finances create a major stressor in relationship. But finances has been part of the coronavirus pandemic, lockdown, circumstances. There are people who have been unemployed. People have been laid off. Some people have had their wages cut. All of that brings more pressure on the house. The number of divorces tend to increase without exception during any economic downturn. And this figure has been tracked consistently since World War II. And what we're having now is a special case because even more traumatic. The financial pressure on the households. So that actually is also a major cause of stress. Decreased in income, increase the potential for strain in the relationship. Because the things that you could do with a little more cash, a little more money, a little more time. The psychological strain increased the results of the anxiety between individuals. People are even more worried, how we're going to make ends meet. And you start taking it out on each other. There's even a phenomenon which I'm quite familiar with, that when a man loses his job, oftentimes it's tied to his self-esteem. And male redundancy, male job cut, takes a larger toll on men than on women. So all of this, it brings more problems home to the relationship. Anxiety, it comes out as anger, it comes out as frustration, and we know that frustration many times leads to aggression. This can be verbal, this can be physical. So we have documented a significant increase in domestic abuse during this time. And those with the lower level of income are even more prone because they have less options. They're able to less withstand this, especially if people working in certain areas, hospitality, leisure, retail, and tourism, which has taken a big hit. So we can see a disproportionate number of relationship problems in those areas. Now, various groups are feeling this. Many people are not able to find the time or the money to deal with some of these issues. And so some are just trying to hold it down, hold it on. We anticipate that with the vaccine, there'll be some gentle eventual return to some form of normality. But there's no guarantee that this will break the trend. Why? Because there are many couples who have just been holding it together, just holding on, doing the best they can, just waiting to exhale. So the financial impact of COVID-19 could lead to a long-term recession. So even after we have been able to control the virus, reduce the spread, the strain on economies are going to continue. The strain on the financial resources of families will also continue. We also believe that some countries who recover faster, they may slow the trend to a larger extent than those countries who do not recover as fast. So the improved economic fortunes could serve one of two things. It could even trigger more divorce. Why? Because the people who were holding it together could say, now I can leave. Now I have a job. Now I can move away. So people do so. Now, as things begin to settle down, we expect to see another further increase in the breakdown in relationships. Why is that? During this time, people have been raising some questions to themselves. Is this what I really want in life? Is this the person I want to spend the rest of my life with? I have spent 24 hours a day with this person over the last number of months. And I've seen things and learned things about them that I'm not comfortable with. Is this how I want to live my life? Some people are even raising some more basic questions. Is this where I want to live? Is this how I want to live? And maybe some of the agreements you had as a couple before, you have been quietly rethinking these things. You want to move to another country, another state. You want to change your career. And that's not open to question. You want to move on for you. So as couples reassess their individual choices, we can see that the pressure of the pandemic realized for many people that, look, life is short. Life is short. Is this how I want to spend my life? So that either maybe making plans that does not involve the other. So these are the things that we now have to continue. So where are you in this situation? Are you coping? Are you discussing these things with your partner? Have you seen the signs in your own relationship? Or you've been afraid to raise these questions? I think you should raise them now. I think you should have serious conversations. And in a context whereby people are free to think and talk and to express themselves. If you start seeing the cracks, folks, if you start seeing the cracks, it'll be useful to get help. Sometimes your friend can be sufficient, but sometimes you need a professional, because friends oftentimes tend to just reinforce your side of the discussion. But what I'd like for you to do is, as I started by saying, that if your neighbor house is on fire with yours, the data tells us that many relationships are in trouble. Some are just holding it together. Some of these are going to be even further trouble as we get through the pandemic. You're warned, so maybe you can do something about saving yourself. We have some future segments in this discourse where we'll start to show some constructive ways either to move on, or to move up, or to move out, whichever one is the one that will save your life. Save you. So until we meet in the next chapter of the coronavirus lessons, walk